Thank you very much. I'm Sasha, and I will take you through a very personal journey. And I want to start off with Bobinho. Bobinho is a mix of a Dachshund and an Amstaff, and he's a dog that me and my wife, we've adopted just a couple of months ago. What's important about Bobinho is that he's a 14-year-old dog. And we wanted a second dog at our place, also because our other dog is quite scared of staying alone. So we thought that we'll adopt a dog, and we fall in love with this dog. Who wouldn't? But later on, I've learned that this wasn't the only reason why we have adopted Bobinho. So at one of the meetings we had, my wife shared with a couple of our friends the fact that her motivation also to bring in Bobinho, a 14-year-old dog, was also about the fact that she has problems coping with death. Especially that because her very, very close family is advanced in age, and she knows that she will need to cope with that at some point in her life. She thought that maybe taking a dog who will pass on in a couple of years will help her acquaint herself with the fact that the close people to us do die. And this was eye-opening for me, and this was very close to me because me, myself, that's me, a few years back, even though I had a great childhood, as you can see here, and I was a very happy kid, very active kid, running around and making mess everywhere. The important part of my life then was also thinking about death. I was quite scared and frightened of death, even so that I knew exactly each ingredient of the food that I was eating, because I wanted to know and be sure that there's no preservatives in order to make myself live as long as possible. Actually, this was alleviated at some point in my life. I talked with my mother and I asked her, it was close to when my grandma, who you can see here in the background, it was close to the time when she passed away, is how do you cope with death? And what she told me at that time, it convinced me that if you live 70 years, 8 years, you've spent a long time in the world. You've learned a lot, and actually you might have gotten tired of living, so it's far easier to die. This convinced me for quite a couple of years. It was easy. I know this is not the case anymore, and I think it was really just for me to hear that. But okay, so there is death, and I'm not very unique in my fright of dying and of the fact that death is so important to us. But to take us further in thinking about death, I wanted to jump to Descartes, and I'm sure everyone is acquainted with this famous sentence, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. But what's quite interesting about this sentence is not it's on its own, but the way Descartes came to understanding that thinking is so important. And he came to this by doubting. He was coming from this school of skepticism, so he doubted whether, can I doubt if there is a chair there? Yes, that's quite easy. I can doubt in that. Can I doubt that I have a hand or I don't have the hand? Okay, I can. I am able to negate the fact that I have a hand. Can I negate the fact that I have my eyes? Do I have sight? Can I doubt that? Yes, he could. The one thing he could not doubt in is this entity that was actually thinking, that was trying to doubt. He was not able to doubt in that, and hence he said, I think, therefore I am, because this is what makes me. But, of course, with coming of Freud and other psychologists, we know that that's not only that, because what actually Descartes was mentioning is consciousness, right? Thinking and the fact that you're able to ponder things is consciousness, because the thinking here was actually performed by consciousness, but we know now there's a lot to our processing that is our subconsciousness. And usually, every psychology student gets to see this picture that you're right now viewing of an iceberg. What's above, that's our consciousness. What's above is subconsciousness. And yes, there is a huge part to us which is not accessible to us. And that's subconsciousness and subconscious processes. And all this sits within the brain. So I would like to introduce myself again. Hi, this is Sasha. This is actually my brain. This is a scan that has been made, and then of course I put it together into a 3D model. Of course, sans the colors. Colors are not. That's not how the brain is colored. It's just pink. But actually, what we've learned with the coming of neuroscience is that everything that is us sits there. All the processing. What's also very interesting is that I know very often the brain and the way we process the world is today simulated or explained by, oh, it's like a computer. Actually, it's not. I would say that the brain is far more a steam machine that a computer, especially because there's no software. There's no software in the brain. There's only hardware, and that hardware changes, and with that hardware change, we do change. I did work some time ago in a hospital working with people after brain injuries, and I really saw on one side fascinating, or from the way of viewer fascinating, but it's a tragic thing for the person having that brain injury. But I saw people missing vital functionalities, but also in a very peculiar way. For example, here, this is my V1 neocortex, and this is part of my brain that allows me, or is the first stage of allowing me to see consciously. If this would be destroyed, I would tell you that I'm blind. Even though my eyes would work, the whole tract converging or sending the information from my eyes to my brain, there would still be processing in my brain of the sight, but I would consciously tell you that I'm blind, just missing this piece of my brain. Of course, then there's far more processing that occurs for seeing, and what's interesting is that there are those different parts of our brain which are made to allow us to do various things. But coming back to the consciousness, what's interesting about consciousness and the brain that I shown you is the fact that we don't really know how exactly consciousness emerges from the brain. We know it does emerge in the brain. We know that we can, as I said, dissect some parts of your consciousness. So by destroying part of the brain, you are able to lose sight consciously, but still there is research showing that, for example, if the V1 is destroyed, somebody throws a ball at you, you will move your head away from the ball, even though you consciously say that you are not seeing anything. If I ask all of you to close one eye, just close one eye. Right now, the moment when you do that, there is a part of your visual field that you don't see. Because in our eyes, we have a nerve tract in a part of our eye, so that where the nerve tract goes into our brain from the eye, at that part of the eye does not see. And I won't be doing this exercise with you, but you can find it on the internet. There's a way to vanish your thumb. If you close your eye, look at one point in front of you, and then go somewhere here, you will lose the thumb. Because actually we don't see that, and our brain makes up this illusion of seeing. And that's not the only illusion. Consciousness, what's interesting about consciousness, it's a mechanism. It's a mechanism that has been created for a purpose. And because it's a mechanism, it has its limitations. One limitation is that if you look at the left side here, is that you can see, there are two pictures here, but you can consciously see just one. You will switch from one to the other. You will see the guy who plays on the saxophone or a lady, but you will never see them together consciously, because your brain actually processes the whole field, and the brain sees those two images, but our conscious self is actually limited to just this one image. And I'm sure you heard, there are no people who are able to do multiple tasks, right? There's no such thing. Multitaskers are just good at switching from one task to the other. Consciously, we're not really able to do two things. Consciously, we're able to do just one thing, but it's a limitation because our brain can do things in more profound way. When you're riding a bike, you're actually processing the information coming from your mechanism that allows you to keep balance. You do process visually what's coming. We do far more things, but our consciousness is able to just do one thing. What's even more important is that our consciousness needs breaks. We do sleep. We all do sleep. And what's even more interesting, if you think about consciousness and the fact that Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. And if there is no consciousness, am I there? Do we die when we go to sleep and then are resurrected when we wake up? There is a particular mechanism that makes us think we're the same people from one day to the other. Are we? Was the kid that I showed you at the second slide, is it me today? No, I'm a very different human being, but I'm being fooled by the mechanism to think that I'm the same person. But I'm not that same person. I have a different brain, my brain changed, my body changed. Everything that I think about the world has changed, but I still think that I'm me. And this is, again, there is a part of my brain that does this. It's a part of the brain that just makes me think that. And it's an important question. Are we the same people when we go to sleep and then wake up when our consciousness was switched off and then switched on? Of course, I'm showing you this picture because Bobek or Bobsleigh, it's the dog here, would never forgive me that I didn't show him, and I did show Bobina the first slide. Right. So, as I said, there is a mechanism that also makes us think that we are the same people throughout our lives. This is not something very intuitive. And then I was talking about mechanisms, right? And then you can think, okay, so there are those mechanisms that makes us conscious, and consciousness has been created as a tool. A tool of what? And of course, this brings us to evolution. Because yes, consciousness, and I would challenge anyone who would say that it's a there was just a chance that made consciousness, because there are those ideas, but no. I think that the consciousness happened because actually having consciousness made our species be far more prominent in the world. But what's important from my perspective is that it's actually a mechanism. It was created so that we do live and we do spread our genes around and we diverse our gene pool. So the consciousness is a mechanism, and basically everything that I spoke about is a mechanism that have been created by evolution, or it's hard to say have been created because, of course, then you would think that there's a plant that is being created, but evolution does not work this way. But even though there was this mechanism that has been created, there is a chance in evolution. Evolution is trying things out. It's pushing you here and then checking how it goes. And what's interesting about human beings is that we have evolved in a way that our consciousness is very profound. It's not only that we're aware of something and we are able to ponder the fact that there's a thing there. We are also able to consciously think about our consciousness. We are able to go on this meta level and kind of detach ourselves and then think about ourselves from kind of this detached perspective from a meta level. And this brings us to the fact that we have been given a true gift of transcending ourselves. Even though we have been brought to life by biology, by evolution, by all the processes that are in the world, firstly, we're able to learn about those processes. We're able to understand them, and then we're able to transcend them. And of course, one way of transcending ourselves out of biology is prolonging our lives, right? There's a certain limit that has been put onto our lives. And now there's a huge research done by the biggest companies in the world of actually making us live longer. Not only that, but we have transcended nature in many, many ways. Technologically and scientifically, we have created mathematics, and this allowed us to really prosper in understanding the world, because actually mathematics is showing us parts of the world which we would not understand, as in quantum mechanics. This is very not intuitive. This is not something that we understand or we would be able to understand without math. But I would say that prolonging our life or making us live longer is conceptually easy when it comes to transcending biology, right? We take over biology, and then we just live longer. So conceptually easy, technically very, very hard. But it's being done. Probably there won't be immortality in the next 10 years, but quite quickly probably we will find new ways to actually be able to live. But I think that there's another way of transcending yourself and transcending your consciousness. And the kid that I showed you at the second slide, apart from pondering death, he pondered stars very much. I loved looking at stars. I also love it still. I have less time to do it. But there is this fact that we are able to detach ourselves and actually look at ourselves from a perspective. And the fact that we have developed neuroscience, biology this much, and there was Darwin, and we did understand that there is evolution. We had Dawkins and the selfish gene. We do understand about ourselves more. And as I said, I spoke about mathematics as a tool to transcend scientifically human beings and move out of biology. I think neuroscience, biology, psychology is also a tool that can enable us to transcend from what exactly we are made to do by biology, by evolution, and have an opportunity to ponder that. And this brings me to my final conclusion. Because if you think about death, not from the perspective of thinking, therefore I am, but from a perspective of a detached soul, or of a person who is detached from the fact that his body will die and he will die, you know that death is actually the facilitator of change. Death is part of the whole mechanism that we are playing at. But even more when it comes to transcending ourselves is the fact that we actually need to start detaching ourselves from our biology, because we have detached ourselves technically, and we are killing the earth that we live on. And this way we have been developed by evolution is not the right, or sorry, differently. We have evolved to be this organism, but by evolving, we have developed science so much that we are able to take over the world. And if we take over the world without transcending biology and evolution, we will probably kill the world that we live on. And I think we need this transcendence of ourselves and actually looking wider, not looking from the perspective of me, of this conscious thing that thinks, therefore he is. We have to transcend that in order to create a sustainable life, because we can do many things, but we should do it thinking about a wider scope, which is not very easy because of the biology that binds us. So I would really like to invite you to this journey of transcendence and of the fact of pondering yourself kind of outside of the biology and of the limits that have been placed upon you by evolution, and let's see where it takes us. Thank you very much.